Welcome to another iHeartRadio exclusive album listening party. It's Maxwell and Crystal. We're here from Z100. You all are a part of a very select group of individuals.
And now you guys are all going to hear Jelly Roll's album for the first time before anyone else.
You guys are going to give us feedback. Let us know what the album feels like to you, how it resonates with your soul. What is it about Jelly Roll that has you feeling away?
When you see him perform, he leaves his heart on the stage. He pours his emotion into everything that he writes, and he's real.
We should just go through the tracks and see how it resonates, huh? You want to jump us off?
Yeah, we're going to start from track number 1. This is Halfway to Hell.
Yeah.
I'm a trailer park tornado. Jelly dances on my halo. Hold the cherry, here goes swing low and carry me away. This little light of mine, damn near burned me alive. Lord knows that mama tried, and I don't know if I'm halfway to heaven or halfway to hell.
Track 1, Give It Up, Jelly Roll, baby. Halfway to Hell. How'd you vibe with
I
that?
liked it a lot. It's such a fun way. I could see like myself like dancing to it, or like
Yeah.
hanging out with my friends and like driving with like the windows open, like have it on, like yelling on the highway.
Okay. Track 3, are we ready, Crystal? Let's go ahead and get into The Lost. It gets better with each one, right?
Yeah, I thought it was a really fun song. I did like the message of it, which is like, these are your people that you like bonded with. It doesn't really matter what anyone else thinks.
It's your tribe.
Like,
It's your squad.
your friends.
Yeah.
Sounds more like old Jelly Roll.
I have felt that, old Jelly Roll.
Stuff and his country stuff.
The perfect mix of like old with new. Like this is new to him, new to like us
It was
as
like a rap beat,
fans,
but
and like
it was country.
exciting because we're country fans too. We've been fans since he was on the rap side of it. So this whole album so far is amazing.
Keep on rolling with it, homie. Good
All right,
Lord.
the next track is called Kill a Man.
Something about you has always been dangerous. I should run, but here I stay. You're the one thing heaven can't save me from, and I'm far past my last chance. I was bulletproof, but baby, loving you could kill a man.
So we've listened to a majority of the album. How are we feeling? Are we getting what we expected? Are we happy with what we've been hearing?
I was honestly not expecting this. I was like, okay, the first song came in, it was amazing. I thought that was it, and as it continues, it just keeps getting better and better.
We told you that. You said that after track number 2.
So many different emotions that is definitely very relatable, and I love that.
Before we go to the last song, I mean, if you could tell Jelly Roll something about what you're feeling right now, what would you say?
Put into words, into a song, everything I was thinking but could never do or like express.
Yeah.
So it's awesome.
Being a fan for so long and watching his journey, like he's always been his true self, but he just finds ways to evolve and make
There's like
himself
different sides of himself.
Yeah, yeah.
right. Like this is like the real raw like feelings like inside like humble teddy bear jelly. I feel.
Yeah, the one that smiles versus the one that looks at you like,
Right, versus,
yeah.
like, you get a little bit of both on this album, but I see more of a softer side.
So let's get to the last song. Like I said, I've been here before. It's called Hung Over in a Church Pew.
I'm Maxwell. My girl Crystal knows what it's like to be hung over in a church pew. But there's got to be somebody else who knows how it feels. You know how it feels to be hung over in a church pew? I think this dude does.
What y'all think about it?
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Jelly Roll! There it is!
What do we think about it?
What up, Jelly?
I was sitting out there listening. I was like, God, I hope they don't fucking hate it. I was like, shit.
Yo, you got to tell us about this collection of music, man, and how special it feels for you to have these stories for not only the world to vibe to, but for you to share another part of who you are.
Yeah, man, I think this was cool. This was like a coming of age record for me. So if y'all don't know anything about me, I started doing hip hop music. I somehow ended up on the rock space. Yeah. I walked in and seen them. I was like, they look like they're from where I'm from. But I started in the hip hop world, and then I slid through the rock world for a while, and I landed in country. But I'm from Nashville, so I guess for some degree I probably should have did country all along. You don't realize how country you are until you come up here and meet New Yorkers. And you're like, man, because down there I'm like city country, and then I come up here, I'm like, no, I'm country country. Yeah. So for me, this was, I compare it as a hip hop fan, I compare it to like, of course it'll never do this well, but like it's like my late registration.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, it's like my offering. It's like my, but you know, I just hold that record in such a high regard. But for me, it was like that. It was a coming of age record for me. You know, I'm 39 now. My daughter's 15. It's her first time in New York City. She's with me, by the way.
How you doing, love?
So,
yeah, good to see you there.
She was actually the inspiration behind the album.
Wow.
Yeah, true story. She started going to this little country church in Nashville, right outside of where we live out in the country. She kept trying to get me to come, and I went one Sunday, and it was this little 100-person back road church. And 25 of the people were kids she went to school with. A bunch of little troublemakers, but they're good kids.
You weren't one of the troublemakers.
Yeah. Well, she's the leader. But they're good kids, and it's wholesome. And I finally went, and I said, well, you know, I went to a little church whenever I was your age too, and I got baptized when I was 14. She just turned 15. This little back road church called Whitsitt Chapel Baptist Church. And I showed her the picture and took her by the church and showed her this old. That's actually that church right there. That's actually the church. And here's the coolest thing about that picture. That picture is not from when I went there in '94. That picture is from 2022. That's how that church still looks. They haven't changed. They haven't painted it. I think I went to just show them, this is the church, and they were like, let's make that the cover.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was cool. So it's kind of full circle was talking about that album. I wrote like 70 or 80 songs towards an album, and I scrapped all 70 or 80 of them and just wrote the Whitsitt Chapel conceptual album. That's why the pastor's all through it. And yeah, I was gonna get nerdy. I was like, I feel like albums are long gone and forgotten, so let me be the last guy who tries one. You know what I'm saying?
Watch it work.
It is working. I mean, your fans here were so happy. Everyone here in the room was quiet listening to what you were gonna say next. And one word that kept coming up over and over was relatability. That you were so humble and so raw and so relatable. A lot of the songs were like, oh, that's so heartbreaking. And thank you so much for being so open and vulnerable. Why did you decide to do that on this album?
I think it's always been my style of writing. So for me, music was therapeutic. Just a quick piece of my story if I have time. My mother was a drug addict who struggled with a lot of mental health stuff. But when I was a kid, she'd never leave her room. She was very reclusive. But when she would come downstairs, which was, I mean, like once every 6 months, right? She would turn a record on, and I would watch the whole house change. I mean, the neighbors would come across the streets, all of her friends would show up, and when you're 10 years old, you don't know what's happening. You just know that for some reason, when this bitch turns this record on,
it gets turned. Like it's a move.
I'm joking. I love my mom. I'm joking. I love her. That's one of my best friends. But she would turn the record on, and immediately you'd watch the whole house turn into like a nightclub. And she'd play like, and the joke I said on a podcast once was, you know, we didn't have Google back then, so you had to believe her. You know what I mean? Right back then, when she's like, James Taylor wrote this about his drug addict sister, you're like, I bet that's what he did write it about. So now you're listening to Fire and Rain just squalling like, oh, his sister, God. You know, it's like, you didn't know. It was really cool. And she would tell these stories before she'd play her favorite song. So that's, I always wanted to write songs that made me feel the way music made our house feel. You know, and it was always like that real raw, old school Motown or outlaw country, that music that was just real and soulful and kind of hurt.
Jelly, one of the things that's really amazing is that you're being yourself. And what's really special about music now is that fans, we're gravitating to true stories. We're gravitating to the raw, the vulnerability. We're gravitating to the authentic. As an artist, what does that feel like when you hit the stage? And I know we see the tears, we see the humility, we see the emotion, but what does it truly feel like to know that you've been able to connect by just being yourself?
Man, yeah, I don't think I've realized it yet. I watched that Hulu documentary. I don't know if any of y'all seen it, but you should. It's really worth an hour and a half, I promise. Yeah, and I mean, I'm a little biased, but it's like, I watched it and I didn't even feel like I was that guy. I was like, man, am I really that big of a deal now? Like, is that real, or because at first I was like, man, these people are making me look like a celebrity. I was like, this is cool. I was like, dude, we're finna trick the world. They're gonna think we're famous. It's unreal, and I still get super emotional, man. It's like, I talked to Garth Brooks the other night at his one night show.
Hold on for a second. That was a name that you just
dropped.
Yeah,
sorry. Pick out one up. I'll try to make that the only one today. But I talked to Garth, and when he sang a song called The Dance, which is historically like one of his biggest records, He was on stage, 4,000 people, and he started choking up. And I watched him bite his finger to try to keep from crying. That's a trick if you're ever finna cry, by the way, bite your finger. And I do it all the time. But I watched him bite his finger, and I knew that trick. So when I seen him, I said, man, that's crazy. I cry every time I sing Save Me. Does it ever get better? Because he's been singing the dance for 30 years. I've been singing Save Me for 2. Yeah. You know, and he's like, sometimes it gets worse. And I was like, wow, but that's the power of music though, right? You know, that's why you can still throw on an old Bette Midler, The Rose, and everybody in this room will cry. You know what I mean? And that song's been out forever. You know what I mean? And that's the power of music. So yeah, it's just all overwhelming, but in a good way. Could you have, now if you're a kid from the South and your whole life you wanted to play an arena that was in your neighborhood, and that was the biggest thing on your bucket list, was your local arena. Anybody want to guess what the second thing on my bucket list was?
Come on, tell them say Madison Square Garden.
Madison Square Garden, baby.
Go,
Madison
baby.
Square Garden,
Yes.
baby.
Yes.
So y'all cheer for me, God willing. It looks like it's about half official. Next year we're gonna make our way down the street, baby.
Now, Jelly, back to the collection that you decided to pick after recording 70 songs. How did you decide that these were going to be the songs that your fans were going to listen to on this album?
Oh man, it's even cooler than that. I didn't just pick out of the 70. I scrapped them and started fresh.
Damn.
Yeah, I crashed all 70 songs, threw them to the wayside, and after talking to Bailey and going to that church, it was just that easy, you know. And I was like, I'm writing a whole new album. I'm gonna call it Wits at Chapel, and I'm gonna tell a story from beginning to end. And to me, it was like a journey through not only my faith, but my life. Yeah. Because you know, you've seen the documentary, from that 14-year-old kid that got baptized in that church to the 25-year-old man that came home to a 2-year-old daughter. I went through a lot of shit, for lack of a better word. You know what I mean? And I was like, well, now I'm a 39-year-old man, and that same little girl's 15. Like, what is that dude's story from 14 to here? And I thought that's what I wanted to encapsulate on the journey.
You did it, dude. I'm going to ask you to speak up if you don't mind, love, and talk about how proud you are of your dad.
Yeah, honestly, I'm beyond proud of him for being able to, like I think like has been said before, share his stories so authentically and be so proud of who he is and be able to share that with everybody. He's so moving, so articulate in like the way he's feeling, what he's been through, and it's like no matter how disappointing or whatever it was that he did or what he's been through, it's like he has the courage to speak up about it and share his story because he knows it helps other people. It does. And I think I really appreciate that too. It's like he really loves to put other people before him, and he loves to share his story to be able to help others feel comfortable sharing theirs and feel comfortable with who they are and what they've been through. And I think that's just really powerful that he does it through music.
She's gonna make me cry. Jesus Christ. Yeah. All right.
A big word.
Don't ask her again. Jesus Christ. Fuck.
You're done. Yeah.
Best compliment I ever got. It's different when you hear it from your 15-year-old.
A word that she used, and before we wrap things up here, is well, she didn't use this word, but a word that I took from that is philanthropic. There is so much that you do, as she said, to give back, to be that, that person that others can look towards, that, you know, you put others first, as she said. How important is that for you to use this platform for that special reason? Well,
I'll speak honestly, and this is where I probably shoot myself in the foot. I was a taker for so long. I was just a narcissistic, self-centered, just a taker. I went into every situation trying to squeeze a booger out of a quarter. Okay. You know, I was trying to leave with the cash register and a pair of shoes behind the counter in every situation I walked into. And I spent so many years doing that I realized that I wanted to be a man of service if I ever got the second chance at life, which I'm a second chance guy. Technically a third or fourth chance guy. But some states wouldn't have let me get that fourth chance, so I guess I'm lucky, as much as I complain about being from Tennessee. But I think for me, it's just the constant evolution, man.
The last question that I want to ask has to do with the features on the album, because we heard some amazing collabs on there, and you even have huge names. How did you decide from your album that you started from scratch and you were writing these songs, then to bring other people in? How was that decision process for you?
Well, the songs just put their hands up. Behind bars, Brantley Gilbert's one of my best friends since I got into country music. But Struggle, who's also on the record, has been my best friend for 20 years. You know, he's got a 22-year-old, a 19-year-old, and a 22-year-old, a 20-year-old, and an 18-year-old. I mean, he spread them out really good. He's got a 5-year-old. He fucked up bad. But one of the older kids, I was like, dude, I remember before that kid was born. Like, I remember the whole pregnancy.
Yeah.
I remember babysitting this kid, and I just watched her graduate. So that was the obvious. It's like, and that goes back to helping too, though. That's my homie. You know, that's the hip hop way, right? That's what hip hop taught me. Reach back, grab as many people as you can. It's like wrestling. You know, when they say pull somebody over. And then Yellow Wolf, it was important for me to do a record for people that have been listening to me from day one. That heard this, that at least had one song on. I think the whole record's true to who I am. For sure. And I think y'all probably agree now that you heard it. But Unlive with Yellow Wolf is just, I think it makes all of us go back to being 28 instead of 38. And I think that we all enjoy that moment on the album. And like I said, it's not, the cool thing about my music is it's not for everybody, but there's something for everybody in there. You know what I mean? And that's the thing is that, and that's kind of what I live by, is that I know that I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but I'm a shot of whiskey, and every now and then you need one.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for being a part of something that iHeartRadio can do for you. Thank you for being a part of our album preview party. Whistle Chapel, this is Jelly Roll. Let's keep it big for our guy.
Why would you recommend this album to a friend?
So it's very real, it's honest, and he literally shows his emotion. I feel like there's at least one song for everybody that's relatable on the album.
I think it's the rawest he's ever, like, most vulnerable he's ever left himself.
I saw his authenticity. Definitely never met him before, obviously, but he was very true to himself, and you could see it speaking to us as well as coming through his music.